If you've ever identified as an empath, if you keep attracting narcissists, if you've always felt like you're always the giver and they're always the taker, what if I told you this isn't just about them, it's about you, and it's about something far deeper than psychology? Because the narcissist and the empath are two sides of the same unintegrated self, two extremes of an ancient battle between flesh and spirit, between ego and grace, between separation and union. And unless you heal both within you, you will continue to manifest this dynamic externally. What if I told you the narcissist and the empath aren't enemies, but reflections, mirrors of an internal battle between distorted masculine and distorted feminine energies? This isn't just a toxic relationship dynamic. It's the blueprint of humanity's fall from grace written into our psyches. The narcissist, the distorted masculine, represents the carnal self obsessed with control, image, and dominance, ego-driven, rooted in the fear of vulnerability. The empath, the distorted feminine, represents the fragmented spirit, overly identified with suffering, self-sacrifice, and codependency, seeking validation through martyrdom. But here's the truth. These distortions live in all of us. Some people wear the mask of the narcissist. Others wear the mask of the empath. But both are masks. Both are coping mechanisms to avoid the core wound of disconnection from the divine self. The distorted masculine and feminine energies manifest through the 7 deadly sins rooted in the unhealed wounds of the soul. Both dynamics revolve around unmet needs. One externalizes control and the other internalizes it, but neither is rooted in wholeness. Each sin distorts both sides differently, and healing brings integration. For the root chakra, which is security, foundation, and stability, manifests as pride. For the flesh, it says, I don't need anyone, which is hyper-independence and superiority. For the spirit in pride, it says, I need someone to save me, which is victimhood and self-abandonment. In the sacral chakra, which is emotion and desire and relationships, this manifests as envy. For the flesh, it says, I must compete and control to be superior. Envy in the spirit says, I am incomplete unless I merge with someone else. In the solar plexus, it's willpower, identity, and personal power, manifests as wrath in its distortion. For the flesh, this is power, means control and domination. And for the spirit in wrath, it means anger means I will be abandoned, just suppressed rage and self-betrayal. Moving into the heart chakra, which is love, connection, and empathy, this distortion manifests as lust. And for the flesh, it says that love is a weakness and it results in emotional detachment. For the spirit in lust, this says a lust for love. Love must be everything. It's obsession, enmeshment. Moving into the throat chakra, which is truth, expression, and boundaries. In its distortion for the flesh, this manifests as gluttony for attention. I must be the center of everything. And for the spirit, it's gluttony for reassurance. I must be told I'm loved constantly. In the third eye chakra, which is intuition, vision, and perception, this distortion manifests as greed. For the flesh, it's greed for control. My reality is the reality. Gaslighting and rigid beliefs. For the spirit's distortion, it's greed for certainty. If I don't know what's coming, I'm unsafe. In the crown chakra, which is divine connection and ego transcendence, the distortion for the flesh is sloth and spirituality. He says, I am my own God. It's disconnected from the divine. The spirit's distortion is sloth and identity. I am nothing without others. I have no inner self. Now here's where the transformation begins. The sins aren't the end of the story. They're the starting point. Each distortion carries the seed of its opposite virtue. In the root chakra, again, security, foundation, and stability. The alchemized virtue is faith from pride, which is trusting in divine order, self-worth without external validation. The lesson for the flesh is humility, recognizing that they are not untouchable. The lesson for the spirit is self-trust, recognizing they don't need external saviors. In the sacral chakra, which is emotion, desire, and relationships, the alchemized virtue is wisdom from envy, bringing emotional balance and healthy desire without obsession. The lesson for the flesh is true fulfillment doesn't come from comparison or dominance. The lesson for the spirit is relationships do not define self-worth. In the solar plexus chakra, again, willpower, identity, and personal power, the alchemized virtue is courage from wrath, which is healthy personal power and sovereignty. The lesson for the flesh is that true strength comes from leadership, not tyranny. The lesson for the spirit is that expressing needs and boundaries is not dangerous. In our heart chakra, which is love, connection, and empathy, the alchemized virtue is love from lust, which is self-love and unconditional compassion. The lesson for the flesh is that love is power. It's not a liability. And lesson for the spirit is that love is given freely, not needed to be whole. In our throat chakra, just truth, expression, and boundaries, the alchemized virtue is temperance from gluttony, the balance expression, and self-regulation. Lesson for the flesh is that being seen does not require demanding attention. And lesson for the spirit is that being loved does not require external proof 24/7. The third eye chakra, which is intuition, vision, and perception, the alchemized virtue is justice from greed, which is clarity, discernment, and seeing reality clearly. The lesson for the flesh here is accepting multiple perspectives leads to true vision. And the lesson for the spirit is that certainty is an illusion. Safety is an inner state. And lastly, in the crown chakra, we have divine connection and ego transcendence. The alchemized virtue is humility from sloth, which is union with divine and true self-worth. The lesson for the flesh is surrender to something greater than self. And lesson for the spirit is that you are whole and sovereign within yourself. Integration doesn't mean eliminating one side. It means transforming both into divine expressions of the self. The narcissist and the empath distortions, again, both of which reside within you, correlate with imbalances in the chakras. the energy centers designed to carry the sacred secretion, the Christ oil, through the body for spiritual awakening. In the root, that's fear of abandonment versus fear of vulnerability. In the sacral, that's emotional dysregulation versus emotional detachment. In the solar plexus, this is codependency versus control. In the heart, we have overgiving versus withholding. In the throat, oversharing without boundaries versus manipulative silence. In the third eye, it's fantasy bonds versus rigid black and white thinking. And in the crown, it's disconnection from divinity in both, manifesting as spiritual apathy or spiritual arrogance. When these energy centers are healed, the sacred secretion rises, transmuting distortion into divine alignment. This isn't about narcissists versus empaths. It's about you versus you. The distorted masculine and feminine are fighting for dominance within your soul. But what if I told you the war ends when you stop choosing sides? When you integrate both, you transcend both. You become whole. You embody Christ consciousness, the union of spirit and flesh, grace and truth, divine masculine and divine feminine. Stop fighting the reflection. Start healing the source. Be loved and be loved, beloved.